wild card round is officially over, and man, were there some surprises. We'll get into that today, but Coop, how are you doing?
A little disheveled,
Chaotic day.
as I mentioned, but here's the thing: we're here, and it's all good now. We're talking ball. No Bender today. This part of the year is always kind of sad because we got our good friend Howard Bender. We have to slowly watch him get clawed away by baseball and Jim Bowden and the dark side because we're gonna stay. Me personally. I'm doing football all year. Right? We're getting into best balls the moment they open. We're doing free agency. We're doing dynasty. But Benderino, man, he's a two-sport athlete. He's like Bo Jackson, so he's got to go do baseball. But he'll be hanging with us, show a week or so. But it's just sad to see, isn't it, Brett?
He's like the Michael Jordan, right?
That's
The
right.
greatest, the
No, no,
greatest
no,
of
no,
all
no, no.
time.
He's he's not. He is the greatest of all time, but he's not
I
like
think
Michael.
the greatest guy in the whole wide world.
He's not like Michael Jordan because I think he's equally good at football and baseball. He's more like Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders at least. Michael Jordan was not that good at baseball. So
Yeah.
I got to give Bender more credit than that. He's Bo. He's Bo.
Let's just get into that whole conspiracy theory about why Michael Jordan even played baseball, but we don't have time to run into that today because
It gets deep.
it does get very deep. And talking conspiracies is not what we do on this show, although we may talk a couple conspiracies with what happened this weekend with the wild card or super wild card, I guess is what they call. But there were some very surprising upsets this weekend. And the only game that was really close was the Rams and Lions. It felt like everything else was kind of a blowout, even more so than some of the scores indicate. I know that the Steelers kind of came back in garbage time, but that game was way out of hand. Same with the Cowboys. And that's the one that I want to start with because absolutely insane. They were undefeated at home. They had a 16-game winning streak going into this game at home, 7.5-point favorites, and then just went out there and completely crapped the bed. So my question to you, Coop, because I saw a lot of discourse about this on Twitter and the internet and, all the talking heads. Do you blame Dak for that loss or the defense?
So it's honestly, the reality is it's a combination of the two. But the people that are just blaming Dak are going way over the top. I've seen it all over the Twitter timeline. It is crazy. Now, the reason that you can't, so obviously if you let up 48 points and it's partially on the defense, the reason that Dak can be to blame to some degree is early on in the game, he was not sustaining drives and the defense didn't have time to rest, right? But we've seen defenses grab their bootstraps and step it up and get it done, even if their quarterback isn't, sustaining long drives. So part of it is to blame on Dak, I will say, but not to the extent that these people are throwing away their Dak jerseys and burning Dak jerseys. That's crazy to me. The guy threw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. So I don't know, Brett. What do you think? Do you think Dak carries some blame, or I guess if you had to just assign more blame to one or the other, which way would you go?
I'm blaming the defense personally. I know that Dak threw 2 interceptions, but I do think that one of those interceptions was caused by a mishold on Brandon Cooks when he was running that route. You can give, as much credence to that as you want. One was definitely on him, but the fact that Dan Quinn went completely away from the man coverage that Dallas has been so good at all season long and just played this soft zone all throughout the game was just perplexing to me. I don't understand how you go away from your bread and butter on defense. They were also misusing Micah Parsons, in my opinion. They were dropping him back in coverage rather than putting him rushing the quarterback. And Sellers and I talked about this before the game. They said if we can put pressure on Jordan Love, it's going to be very, not easy, but a lot more easy to contain him. If he gets time in the pocket, he's going to shred us. And that's exactly what happened. So it was that combination of zone and Micah Parsons. I was ranting in my kitchen about how Dan Quinn's focus is on all these head coaching interviews and not at the game at hand. So I tend to place more blame on the defense, but it is what it is. Just super disappointing.
Yeah, no, two things on that. One, Jordan Love, man, super impressive the way he stayed in the pocket because these young dudes, they can panic at times, especially with a guy like Micah Parsons coming at you. He was hanging in there, man. He hung in there long enough to make some laser throws downfield. It's like the combination of with pressure is that you lose poise and then you dump it down short. He was hanging in there and throwing it downfield, man. So Jordan Love, very impressive. The other thing with the interviews, I could have sworn the league was doing everything in their power to push that stuff off and move it back. They want the hiring process to be longer. They want it to involve more minority coaches. I know each year that they've addressed it, they've moved it farther and farther back. So I'm surprised that he's even allowed to go out there and do that right now. Especially because with the Rooney Rule, you're going to you have to now interview coaches. Did you see how the Patriots were able to get around the Rooney Rule?
I did not. I heard a little bit about it, but I don't know the details of it. So please tell us as our
Yeah.
resident Patriots fan.
So the what the Rooney Rule is basically, and it's a great rule, is that you have to interview at least one minority coach. Now, I like the idea that you have to at least talk to somebody. You don't necessarily have to hire them, so it's not forcing it. You can still hire the best person for the job, but you have to at least give a person a shot. What the Patriots did to essentially allow them to hire a new coach the moment Belichick was gone is when they gave Gerard Mayo a new contract, they put a special clause in his contract that allows for them to essentially, it's a succession clause, right? So the moment that Bill Belichick was done, they were allowed to upgrade him to head coach, which is what they did, which is why they're ahead of everybody else, because everybody else has to go through these interview processes. Now, the problem with doing that is that now, you can cross out every GM that would want to bring in their own coach. And now you have a coach that's only ever played and coached for the Patriots. So how is he going to find a GM? I'm sorry, how's he going to find an offensive coordinator? Like, who does he know on these other teams? So kind of interesting, but that's how they were able to do it, man.
Yep, really interesting, and it goes back again to how important contracts are, because the contracts and the just intelligence and foresight that they're putting into these contracts these days is really helping them get a leg up. And I think it's going to be something that we're going to see happen more and more frequently as, these turn out to be good business decisions. I think that other GMs are going to jump in and make their own version of that. But it is what it is. I'm just meh. Belichick to Atlanta also, the rumors,
Yeah,
the rumor mill starting.
meeting with him going on already, and I mean that is his kind of team, right? The team that wants to run the football, is built to run the football. So we'll see. We'll see on that. They still need a quarterback though, and it's like, I don't know. If I was Bill, I would personally want to go somewhere that has a quarterback after I just spent all this time having everything but a quarterback. So we'll have to see.
Yep, it's going to be very interesting in the offseason to say the least. And something else that's going to be interesting going to last night's game between the Buccaneers and the Eagles. We had all talked about the Eagles being in free fall, just falling to pieces. But again, it's the Buccaneers. They were pretty much fighting to win that division up until the very last week, but they put a spanking on the Eagles. Jalen Hurts with 5 rushing yards came out this morning that Jason Kelsey is retiring. They could not get anything done. I think that AJ Brown has scrubbed everything Eagles related from his social media already, which is a big red flag that we like to look at. So what are your thoughts about the Eagles and the Bucks? Do you think the Bucks are for real, or did the Eagles just crumble?
Honestly, it seemed like the Eagles, they thought they were just going to coast at this point, right? And so did I. I mean, I look at the schedule and I was like, geez, Giants, Cardinals, Giants again. They should just be able to cruise in, get the bye week. And, when you think you're going to do that and be able to rest, and then you have to go, full on, you start losing guys to injury. The other thing that I noticed yesterday that honestly, to me, to some degree has to be blamed on the coaching is the tackling. Like, you have to continue deep into the season, take tackling very serious. And we saw it with the play on Josh Allen and Mahomes, where nobody wanted to tackle him. That to some degree was, kind of a thinking he might slide or whatever it is. You can excuse that. The touchdown for Trey Palmer, what was that, dude? Like, that is fundamental level 1 stuff to stay on the outside of that guy and force him inside. You don't even have to make the tackle. You just have to be in the right spot. Like, that to me is coaching. I mean, maybe Jonathan Gannon, kept everybody in line, and him losing going to the Cardinals could be part of it. But whatever they did to get ready for this game, it did not seem to include like making sure your tackling is on point, because that was brutal. And that's what honestly lost the game for him yesterday, because you should not have guys like, it's one thing if Mike Evans is shedding you off or if Chris Godwin's juking you. You should not have Trey Palmer going for a 40-yard touchdown. You should not have who is the other guy that that busted off a long touchdown?
More.
Yeah,
Was it
right.
David Moore?
David Moore. It's like you should not have David Moore breaking tackles and going for long touchdowns. Like that is 100% a coaching issue or a willness issue. And if it's a willness problem, then maybe it is time to see some of these guys go. Guys like, Darius Slay and James Bradbury that in the offseason almost indicated they didn't want to be there in the first place. So we'll have to see. But just ridiculous with the lack of tackling. And yeah, Matt Patricia as defensive coordinator. I mean, as a Patriots fan, all I have to say is we warned you.
Yeah, you did. And we've seen it in Detroit, we've seen it in New England, and now we've seen it again in Philadelphia. So I'm with Jared. I really don't know how he keeps getting these gigs. Maybe this one is the last one. He'll drop back down to like a maybe linebacker coach or something
Right.
like that.
The thing
Because
is, he's incredibly smart, right? That's
right.
the thing with he's a rocket scientist, whole deal. And there's a lot of guys like that people just like. You know what I mean? Like people seem to like Ron Rivera. They seem to like these guys, and that's how you get gigs, man. It's like it is a popularity contest to some degree.
100%. And I think that that goes back to why Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a head coaching job yet,
Right.
because it is a popularity contest, and he has this kind of specter of being very difficult to work with, both as a colleague and as a coach. So that's going to be interesting to watch as
That's
well.
maybe that's the move these days. Just pick either the hardest to work with guy or a guy that's just like a total weirdo, like McDaniels or Gannon. Because I'll tell you what, like the perfect example is Jeff Fisher. Like everybody loves Jeff Fisher, but that dude was an 8-8 machine, right? So like, hey, you know what? Maybe sometimes it's good to have a jerk in there. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest jerks just became available at head coaching, right? With Bill Belichick.
100%. 100%. Everybody saying that, obviously Atlanta is the biggest team that he's been linked to, but everybody saying Dallas. Can you just imagine he and Jerry Jones butting heads, both of those egos trying to go up against one another? I don't think it would ever work down there, but it's going to be very interesting to
Yeah.
watch and see.
That would be something, dude. He would have to. The agreement would have to be that Jerry's completely hands off.
And Jerry would never do that. And
No.
that's why I think it's never going to happen. It's kind of like Fetch out of Mean Girls. Stop trying to make it happen.
Stop
It's
trying to
not
make
going
it
to
happen.
happen.
Yeah, that's
But
like those are the coaches that need it the most. I mean, or the owners, right? Like Jerry Jones, Jim Irsay, David Tepper. They are the ones that need it the most, and they're the ones that'll never accept it.
100%. And then we'll see how it works out,
Yeah,
until after they're gone or step down or whatever. Were they right to have control, or are we going to see a change? I personally think we're going to see a change, but that's just me.
Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry. That's all. That's all you need to know.
Yep, absolutely. So another surprising game this weekend was obviously the Texans over the Browns, the very first game on Saturday. I mean, holy crap. What happened with both the Browns defense and their offense? The Texans came to play. Joe Flacco's carriage turned back into a pumpkin. Do you think that CJ Stroud can keep this magic going now that they're going to Baltimore to face the Ravens? And we also get into this whole argument of rest versus rust. They sat their starters in week 18. They had last week off. Do you think that the Texans riding hot could go in there and give Baltimore a test?
I mean, it's definitely not crazy because I watched, Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't his rookie year because he didn't start his rookie year, but his first season he threw 50 touchdowns and he never stopped being good. I mean, honestly, Deshaun Watson, say what you will about him now, but his rookie year, before he hurt his ACL with this Texans team, he was 4 or 5 touchdowns every single game. So I think this is obviously one of, if not the best teams in the league, and it is going to be, the biggest test. But the way they're playing right now, I'd rather have a situation where it's a complete wild card coming in, like a CJ Stroud, where we don't even know the ceiling, versus some of these other teams where you look around and say, okay, you know what, like Baker Mayfield, we kind of know what the ceiling is. Like he's not going to beat the Ravens. If anyone can do it, give me the crazy upside play. And the thing is, if you're a Texas fan like Colby Conway here at Fantasy Alarm, if your team loses, I wouldn't feel bad at all. I mean, like, to be honest, you didn't expect to be here in the first place. A lot of these guys are under rookie deals. You're just getting started. Like, you can be proud of this season, even if you don't beat the Baltimore Ravens, right? So, the Texans are in a good spot, right? They're playing with house money here.
100%. It is a great start to this season. D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick came in there and really not only changed the culture of this program, but really got the most out of these young weapons that they have. And I think it's only going to go up from here. Super excited to go from worst to first as it is, and then to win your first playoff game. with all of these young players is something that's really hard to do. But the Steelers and Buffalo, I did we really expect Buffalo to lose to the Steelers? Not
No,
really. But Josh Allen's 52-yard touchdown run. That run was absolutely crazy. He was spinning, like juking, bursting at a couple times. Nobody wanted to even come close to him. Second longest run in playoff history by a quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen. What
crazy.
can we say?
Yeah, and again, just like the Mahomes run there, Mahomes didn't get in the end zone, but there was a part there where I think the defenders looked at each other and said, "Okay, this guy's going to slide. We don't need to pop him." I think moving forward in these playoffs, after what happened with 2 plays this week, teams are saying, "Hey, you know what? Pop that guy." It's like 15-yard penalty is obviously better than a 52-yard touchdown. And the thing is, Josh Allen, like if he's not going to slide, then you got to hit him, man. They clearly were scared to go in and make that hit. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the Steelers put up more of a fight than I thought. They kept it close to some degree. So you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, the thing with the Steelers and a lot of these teams, they need to find the answer at quarterback. I'm not sure if it's Kenny Pickett. He really, the problem that you run into is that he's got good weapons. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, even Allen Robinson. Obviously, Pat Frymuth is good. They have 2 good running backs. Like, for him not to be able to take a step forward this year is quite an indictment. And I think honestly, they're a team that's going to be in the mix for a new quarterback here.
Yep. I think
What do you,
that
what
they
do you
will
think
be
about what do
too.
you think about a Russell Wilson with Mike Tomlin?
Oh man, how crazy would that be? So it would go from Pete Carroll, who is like the player's coach, right, to Sean Payton, who is the opposite of that.
Right.
And then you've got Mike Tomlin, who's just able to corral all of these different personality types. I mean, thinking about when he had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell on the
Right.
same team.
Crazy.
How did you
Martavis Bryant and like
yeah,
all these crazy guys. Yeah.
how did you ring in those egos and those different personality types? So I think it would be kind of interesting to see if he went up there, but that's all gonna be the fun stuff that we talk about in the off season.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about it now. Hoove in the chat wants to talk about. Do you have an autographed Prince?
So
Prince on
it's not an autograph. It is a newspaper spray paint print that I got,
Oh, okay.
in in Frenchman Street in New Orleans. They have this little market garden thing, just walking around there, finding people's wares, and saw a really cool Prince print and
That's
just picked
sick.
it up. I wish it was autographed, but unfortunately it's not.
I mean, I'd be over the top, dude. But yeah, Prince. Shout out Prince. One of the best
Yep.
Super Bowl halftime shows all time. Maybe the best.
The rain,
The Rain.
just oh, the aesthetic. Nature gave us a free show, baby.
Yeah, it's either him or the Michael Jackson one is on all timer as well.
I have to also throw in the Lady Gaga show. The drones and the descending from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ceiling was
that was sick.
really birds.
My personal favorite, yeah, Burns doesn't like it. My personal favorite was when Missy Elliott came out in the Patriots Seahawks one. Dude, I was like, music make you lose control. I was getting after it, dude. So
And now we've got Usher and potentially his surprise guest. So it's
yeah,
always a fun time.
Usher, that's gonna be sick, dude. I'm not sure if Usher was doing a concert on my front lawn. I'm not sure I would even open the blinds.
Really?
I'm just,
You're not
I
down with the
guess
drop top?
I don't know. I don't got it bad. I don't got it bad.
Oh
I
man.
mean, I don't know. We'll see. I like to not hold out judgment because the first time that Bruno Mars went to do it, I was like, Bruno Mars. I mean, he's fine, but that was an awesome one. In fact, it's my opinion that Bruno Mars should do it every single year. Just let Bruno Mars get a group of artists out there and have him, doing his thing, playing the drums, crazy stuff, and just go wild. Bruno Mars should be like the permanent ambassador of the halftime show. In fact, he even said when it was in Atlanta that he would go and get all local Atlanta people and do it. I was like, that sounds good. So
Might
shout out
as
Bruno
well.
Mars. Shout
But
out
he's
Bruno
already
Mars.
he's been in it twice though. I think there's probably a limit
It
for how
it
many
should.
times.
Well, that's why I'm saying that it shouldn't just be Bruno Mars. It should be the halftime show presented by Bruno Mars, and then he brings out Usher and all these people.
Well, I can see that.
Something
Note,
to think about.
if anybody's watching who's the creative director of the Super Bowl, let's take notes from Coop.
I think it's actually Jay-Z.
Oh, well. Oh yeah, the Apple, because it's Apple now, isn't it? Oh,
Mhm.
yep, you're probably right. You were probably right. So a couple more games. Chiefs over Dolphins. Nothing really exciting happened in this game. The thing that did surprise me was that Mahomes threw the ball for 41 times in those conditions. Really shocked me with that. Some of the most pass heavy that the Chiefs have been all season long, and they didn't even have to be because they were just completely commanding this game the entire time. But man, the Dolphins just kind of sputtered.
Right. For sure. And I will say, the thing with Tua is he kind of got exposed a little bit here because all season long, when he was just running the plays the way they are run, and they're very creative, right? Like they got the little fake handoff pitches and the play action where he just turns around and throws it immediately without even looking. The uh Basically what the Chiefs did is they took L'Jarius Sneed and put him on Tyreek Hill, and he was actually able to contain him. And then from there, they got pressure. And then Tua having to create on his own did not look good. So I don't know. The thing about that situation is all year long, we're like, Tua, he's good, he's fine. But then you start realizing, well, maybe it is just the play calling. Maybe it is this scheme. And maybe you could have somebody better running the scheme while also adding a little bit of flavor on top. So Dolphins, they got things to think about. I think in the offseason, and we'll get into offseason stuff with, later shows. We have a whole off season for that. But I think they need a third pass catcher, whether it's a wide receiver. I don't think it's going to be a wide receiver either because they use so much fullback. I really do think they need a two-way tight end. They need to get the best possible tight end. I mean, if they go out and get Brock Bowers, now this offense is looking a lot like the 49ers, right? Because you've got good running backs. You have your Waddle and Tyreek Hill as your Ayuk and Debo. And then now you have something at least resembling Kittle, whereas Durham Smythe, man, is not a threat. So I don't know. River Craycraft, not really doing it.
No.
So I think that's what they got to do. The Chiefs, I mean, what are your thoughts on their possibility of winning this whole thing? On one hand, they did win this game pretty handily, but once again, outside of Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, it was ugly. So I mean, I don't know. Is who can emerge from these wide receivers to offer some consistency? And it's obviously not Mecole Hardman.
Or Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is persona non grata. And I was talking to my friend who is a Chiefs fan while we were watching the game, and I said it's so funny that the GM brought over Kadarius Toney thinking that he was going to be the one-for-one replacement for Tyreek Hill. That's
Right.
just the silliest thing ever.
He brought over the crazy without any of the touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. And then brought penalties to boot. So
Yeah.
I think they've got to do something in the offseason. I'm not ever going to count them out just because they have great coaching. They have, good quarterback, good running back, and their defense really has kept them in there. But as far as the total package, I don't really see it happening just personally. But final game this weekend was Lions over Rams. And this was the only close game that we had all weekend long. Puka Nacua absolutely destroyed. 9 receptions, 181 yards, and a touchdown for a rookie. That absolutely insane. I did love what Eminem came out and put out there. And I do want to say, just on a side note, nobody bitched about Eminem being shown on the screen like they bitched about Taylor Swift. So can we just keep that in mind and kind of, rein in our things?
I guess, I guess the difference is they don't like the idea. They like the idea of Eminem supporting the city, but to fans of the Chiefs, Taylor Swift is like an outsider. To me personally, I would embrace it, man. Like she's legitimately cares about the games. Looks like she's learning about it. She's showing up in the cold, right? Wearing an awesome jacket that Kyle Juszczyk's wife. Did you see that she made?
It was amazing. I've been
Super
all over
cool,
her
dude.
TikTok seeing like all the different things that she's made for players, for herself. Get that girl a fashion contract.
Yeah, I want as many cool people rooting for my team as possible. You know what I mean? So, and I think Chiefs fans generally like her. No, there's not any Chiefs fans that are upset. Unless, the irrational people thinking that Travis Kelce's play has something to do with it, but maybe them. But I mean, I don't know. I would love if she was a Patriots fan. Right? Unfortunately, we have like Bon Jovi. Like that's like our best one. Though he did write a football song like for the Patriots. Did you know that?
No.
He's he's friends with Bill, and he wrote this song that was for, I think it was for the Super Bowl or AFC Championship game, but they play it after every touchdown. They play a Bon Jovi song. It's like, "This is our house." It's
balls.
kind of dope. Yeah, that's a song right there. Burns got it.
Well, I was going to say, if his son is a fan, then he's marrying Millie Bobby Brown. So maybe we'll get some Millie Bobby Brown at the Patriots game.
Bon Jovi's marrying Millie Bobby Brown?
His son is.
Oh, I was gonna say that's a bit of an
No,
age
no,
disparity.
his son, his son.
I just imagine
No,
Bon Jovi and 11. No, that's a big
no, it's
discrepancy.
his son. It's
Yeah,
his
good.
son. But maybe
Good.
we could get some 11 at the Patriots games, use her mind powers and
I don't
make the
doubt it.
Patriots actually good.
Right? All of a sudden, fourth quarter, you just see like, blood coming out of Mahomes' nose, right? That's 11 using the
We'll have to wait and see how Stranger Things season 5 turns out, but I would not put it past her.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
down. We need it.
I'm always down for fun things and celebrities and whatever, but now that we've recapped everything, I wanna know what was the biggest shock to you over the weekend?
I
Because
mean,
I have a couple.
yeah, I think the number one
Mm,
honestly, the number one shock for me was CJ Stroud and how poised he was and how just that game it was never a question, right? And you think in playoff games, that's where you want to have the veteran quarterback. Like that's where you want Joe Flacco on your side because he's been there. He's won a Super Bowl, right? You want the guy that knows how to wake up, how to get the team ready and tell everybody else, like, hey, here's what we did before we won. Here's how we did it. CJ Stroud coming in, new coach, all these guys. I mean, I know the 49ers, made a deep run and D'Amico Ryan's is part of that. And so is Bobby Slowick. But like, you know, that is such a dicey situation. You're thinking to yourself, like, oh, what if this goes horribly wrong? Right. But he came out, he looked awesome, man. See, I shout out to Jared Moore in the chat. I went and ordered a couple more packs of cards. I'm trying to get my hands on some CJ Stroud cards because I think this guy is going to be awesome, dude. So I went out, got some ordered some Panini Prisms, Jared, that I got coming in like a year whenever they're available. But yeah, I'm trying to get my hands on some CJ Stroud because he was very impressive. What surprised you, Britt?
I think that's a worthwhile investment for sure. Definitely, what you said, Texans over the Browns. The spread was 1.5 in favor of the Browns, and they just got slaughtered. So
Crushed.
that just crushed. So that really shocked me. I think actually the Dolphins not putting up much of any kind of fight actually surprised me. I thought that, in these cold conditions that they would be running the ball a little bit more. Mostert, I know that he was questionable coming into the game, but he barely got in the work. Achan barely got any work. Jeff Wilson was mixed in there, so it was a true triple threat backfield. Just really shocked that they went away and tried to go against Kansas City secondary when you have been able to run against them the pretty much all season. So just a little bit shocked. Not shocked that they lost. I'm just shocked about their play calling and how
Right.
they went away from everything. So
Well, that's the thing with the unique play calling is when it works, it's amazing, and when it's bad, it's bad. Josh McDaniels is always known for that, where it was like we look back and the double passes and stuff, awesome. But he also had a lot of those plays that he called that were drive murderers, right? So when you have a guy like Mike McDaniel, got to take the good and the bad. Sometimes his game plan comes out, and with those crazy game plans, you can surprise teams. But in this case, it was more ugly than it was good. So
yep, 100%. So now at least we do have our divisional round matchup set. Texans are going to go to the Ravens Saturday at 4:30 Eastern. The Ravens are 9.5 point favorites with a game total of 45.5. I kind of think that might be a little bit low, and I may take the Texans at plus odds there, just seeing what they did against the Browns. I don't know how you feel about that, but I
yeah.
can't count them out.
Well, that's the thing is that like it's a fun team to root for. As I mentioned earlier, they're a hot team right now, right? Maybe the hottest team, based on the way they won and everything surrounding the team, and they have nothing to lose, right? Like again, for some of these, you have to think about where these teams are and the windows of trying to operate. We talked about this in the offseason, Britt, where we were like, what team you know, if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's a disappointment. I believe you had said the Bills in your process of also kind of fading the Bills, but
Mhm.
it's a good point that like the Bills, they have all these guys that are aging out. They have all the contracts on the line. They got people that need to be paid. And if they don't win, it's a disappointment. If the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, it's a disappointment. If the 49ers, the Ravens, like these teams, anything short of a Super Bowl is disappointing. Whereas teams like the Texans and the Packers, I to some degree the Bucks, like they're playing with house money. So I am definitely interested in potentially looking at these teams to cover.
Yeah, 100%. One team that I am not necessarily looking at to cover is the Packers at San Francisco. Um, as good as Jordan Love looked against Dallas, I think that San Francisco is going to bring a lot more pressure, going to cover a lot more down the field. They are favored by 10 points with an over under of 50. This is the night game on Saturday. Then we've got the Bucks and the Lions, which I'm very interested in after seeing what the Bucks did to the Eagles last night. Lions are 6-point favorites with an over under of 48.5. Do you think that the Bucks can put up a fight against the Lions, or was that just kind of a fluke last
You
night?
you know what's interesting about it is that, Baker's the one that typically overthrows guys, like wide open guys, makes those mistakes, right? Where you look back on the season and say, well, if Baker made all the throws, then he would have been an all pro. You know what I mean? Yesterday, he was making every throw, and the guys were actually dropping a lot of them. Mike Evans had a terrible drop that should have been a touchdown. Kate Otten had a couple. Like, if it all comes together, the Buccaneers can beat everybody. I just worry that, you know, it's a that's the problem with the NFL is you do one overthrow or a drop pass on a third down, changes the whole game. The Eagles weren't able to take advantage of it, but you got to be as we move through this bracket, you got to be perfect, right? And to your point on the 49ers, they have the best player in the league at like six different positions,
Yeah.
right? Best running back. They have the best left tackle. They have the best fullback. They have one of the best tight ends, if not the best two-way tight end. And that's just on offense. On defense, they have, one of the best defensive ends. They have Javon Hargrave, right? Like this team is absolutely loaded. All Brock Purdy does is be the game manager. Tom Brady game managed his way to multiple Super Bowls, right? You
Mhm.
have to put the team on your back. So that's all it is for 49ers. If Brock Purdy comes out and tries to play hero ball and makes mistakes, that's how they could potentially lose or not cover the spread. If Brock Purdy just comes out and does his job, then they are just the better team in so many ways in at virtually every position.
Yep, I think so too. And then for the final game, we've got the Chiefs and Bills, that rivalry coming back for the, excuse me, the last game on Sunday at 6:30. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites, but the over/under is only 46, and I think that's a little bit low for both of these teams and how they've been playing. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or if the Bills should even be favored here.
Yeah, I mean, historically, Travis Kelce has crushed the Bills, but he
Mhm.
hasn't been Travis Kelce this year. Like going back, like Travis Kelce, I was looking at it for my DraftKings article earlier this year. He's averaged like 17 PPR points per game against this team, which is like quite a few.
Yep.
To average, like, he's pretty much he's been great, and they don't have Matt Milano. That's why the matchup to some degree does favor the Chiefs. 46, I mean, you're right. I don't really get why it would be that low without the Chiefs being favored because the Chiefs have the better defense, I feel. Like they've had like
Mhm.
the second best defense all year. So I don't know. It is a very interesting line for the Bills to be favored with a over under that's not like 50. So no, we'll have to see what's going on with that one, Brett. Why do you think because you look at the Packers, the over under is 50 in that game. You look at the Bucks Lions, that one's like 48 and a half. I don't see why it wouldn't be in the same realm for these two teams.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, unless they're just expecting more weather and a slower paced game. But the Bills lost quite a few of their defensive players, namely linebackers, over this past weekend. And I'm just not so sure that they're going to be able to handle Kansas City's, well, Isaiah Pacheco or Travis Kelsey without those linebackers out there. So I think it should be a little bit higher. We'll have to wait and see about the weather because obviously that's always a thing in
Right.
Buffalo, and those guys are crazy when it comes to weather. Lighting tables on fire, just jumping into the fire tables and then rolling around in the snow. These guys don't care.
Yeah.
So
I saw, the picture's so funny. Some of the people like you would think that people that like, most people go in, they clean their seat off. I saw a picture one guy had his buddies like make him into a snow pile where all that was out there was his eyes. He was literally just like, what are these guys doing? I also saw guys at the Chiefs game, no shirt on, dude. Obviously I think
yes.
they had a couple extra Bud Lights or whatever, but those guys were, I mean, dude, that's dangerous at that level. So these fans are ready to rock. This is going to be an interesting
Yeah, I was like, they kept showing multiple people, and I was like, how many people do you think are gonna go to the hospital after this game
one. Right.
trying to get
Seriously.
treated for frostbite or whatever, you know? Just seems a little crazy to me, but that is why the NFL is as entertaining as the NFL is. It's not just the players, it is those crazy fans as
Speak,
well.
Speaking of crazy fans, we got Ani Coop in the chat congratulating our guy Anthony, who went to the game on the Lions winning. Ani Coop's Rams have lost, but Coop, you got your boy Jared Goff still. So I don't know, Anthony, you gonna allow Ani Coop to jump on the Lions bandwagon? I think she would appreciate that, and then you can keep the football good times going. Let us know, Anthony, if you're gonna. I'll jump on the bandwagon too if you let me on.
Yep, I'm definitely on the Lions bandwagon with Frank Ragnow and Dan Skipper being part of the Lions. I'm
Arkansas boys.
100%. Yeah, I'm
They got
100%
the big
down.
hogs up front. Let's go.
Yep, and he did report as eligible,
That's right, dude.
this week.
Did you hear Ray Lewis talking about the reporting is eligible?
I did not.
I listened to him. He was on for the fourth quarter of Eli and Peyton Manning, and they asked him about the reporting is eligible thing, and he goes, "Oh, I love that." And they were like, "Why?" And he was like, "This guy's going to come into the game and go to the ref and say, I'm gonna line up over here as the end, and be the eligible guy." He's like, "That's great. Tell me exactly where the big boys lining up because that's probably where they're going to run it."
Mhm.
Oh,
Absolutely.
makes a lot of sense, Ray.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why, Taylor Decker was wide open because they were covering Skipper because over the loudspeaker they said 70s reporting as eligible. So that
Right.
was that whole thing. But anyway,
Yes, it
that's
is.
old news. Cowboys don't matter anymore. We don't have to talk about them. But what we do need to talk about is our partners over at Underdog Fantasy. So you guys know them, you guys love them. We've been having fun with them all season long. But Underdog Fantasy is offering new contests and chances to win every single day, not just with NFL, but with every sport. You can play their pick'em contest by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite player stats. And the more that you pick, the more that you win. So if you scan that QR code on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog, use promo code ALARM, and first time depositors get a 100% deposit match up to $100. So again, that's fantasyalarm.com/underdog, promo code alarm, or just use that handy dandy QR code right there on the screen for you. So I want to ask Coop, what I know it's early, it's only Tuesday, and the games are a little bit out, but what is your favorite stat that Underdog currently has for this weekend's games?
Yeah, well, usually I'm very rational. I go into the past data, the matchups, the history, everything. All year long, I've been doing that. We've been doing like 3 of these a week. This week, Britt, I'm going with my gut, going with my heart. Out there watching CJ Stroud run around making plays, looking like a veteran, not like a rookie out there, dismantling a very difficult Browns defense. I look at the stat they have set, the number they have set of 1.5 touchdowns. Not only is he set at 1.5 touchdowns, but they've got these things on there called scorchers. They're little peppers on there where you can actually get bonuses. His is a scorcher. You can get 1.25x, and you can load up a bunch of these scorchers all the way up to 100x. Brett, I know you were doing that this weekend. You had a couple in there that were like, you had 10 $20 to win 1,000. So you can load those up, right? So I like CJ Stroud 1.5 passing T days. Give me higher on that one.
Yep, I'm 100% down with you on that. I really love what I'm seeing from CJ Stroud.
There's my
Oh, yeah.
whistle, Burns. What the heck, dude?
I always forget about the whistle.
Well, he was
Uh,
Burns sleeping back there. What the heck?
well, and I'm trying to get this frog out of my throat, everything going on. There's just too much extraneous noise in my brain to think about the whistle. But I think that you are absolutely right. Doing what he did against the Browns, you've talked about it, showing that poise, everything that he's done, it just looks like magic. And I think that he continues it this weekend. So I love that pick. I am going to go with a little bit of chalk because I don't think there's anything wrong with going with chalk at this point in the season. And that for me is Christian McCaffrey with more than 88.5 rushing yards. The Packers have allowed quite a few yards throughout the season. McCaffrey has just been an absolute beast. I don't care that Elijah Mitchell's back there, that Jordan Mason's back there. This is McCaffrey's backfield. As much as we were concerned at the beginning of the season that he may split time so that they managed his workload, we haven't seen any of that. McCaffrey is going to get tons of touches, going to get tons of yardage, especially in a 10-point favored game. Give me more than 88.5 yards for Christian McCaffrey.
Earlier this year, McCaffrey played 100% of the snaps in a game, and Shanahan came out and said that was a mistake. We didn't mean to do that. We shouldn't be doing that. And then exactly one game later, he played 100% of the snaps again. Right. So sometimes you just have to play to win the game. And in these ones, I could expect him to play 100% of the snaps.
Yep. Shanahan is the worst at coach speak. Can we
Right.
just say that? Don't believe
You don't
anything
care, man.
that Shanahan says. He is like the burn book. I keep going back to Mean Girls because Mean Girls has been all over the timeline and TikTok this weekend. But it's like the burn book. Do not trust her.
Right.
Do not trust Shanahan. Shanahan would be in the burn book.
When does the new Mean Girls come out? Is that out yet?
Yeah, it came out this weekend.
Have
So,
you
and
seen
it
it
is
yet?
a musical. I've seen a ton of clips on TikTok. So does that count?
Yeah, I heard they were pretending like it wasn't a musical. The thing is, though, there are certain musicals that I like, and oddly enough, the ones I don't like are the like, because I'm a kind of a movie guy. So you would think that I would like the ones that are like Broadway style, but I actually don't like those ones. I do like the ones that are like Pitch Perfect, like those
Hmm.
ones, right? Which from the commercials, it seems like that's what this one is. Like I like when they're like silly like that. I don't like when they take it too seriously. I don't want to see like a bunch of sad songs. So
So you're not about the Les Mis.
not about Les Mis, dude. Not about like West Side Story or whatever. I
It's
do,
boring.
yeah. But I did like Hamilton, but that's a play. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
that's my
Hamilton
take
was
on it.
different.
That's my take on it. Make me laugh. If you're gonna do funny stuff, just don't sing me a sad song. I'm not interested in
I'm down with that. We come here to be entertained, right?
that. Right.
But something else that I want your take on as we move on is fantasy might be over for season long, but you and I know we are in a ton of one and done contests. And since there were so many surprises, it kind of, maybe messed some of your planning up this weekend with all the upsets that happened. So I want to go through and look position by position at some of the guys that we're targeting for the divisional round. And I'm going to start with quarterbacks. I probably have an idea of who you want for your quarterback based on your talk,
I'm
but
just gonna tell you
just
right
let us
now,
know who it is.
just to get it out of the way, I'm taking CJ Stroud because I didn't use him in either of my leagues last week. So there's mine right there. I'm already in. I'm all in. I'm sold.
Yep, I think CJ Stroud would be great. I also wrote in mine that CJ Stroud is a great contrarian option because I don't think a lot of people will be rolling with him because they'll be afraid of the Ravens defense. But I'm more so looking at Jared Goff. Going against the Buccaneers secondary has allowed a ton of passing yards. I think it's the second most passing yards to quarterbacks. Jared Goff's also going to be playing in a dome at home, which is where he thrives. When he gets on the road, it's a little more dicey, but I think that he ends up having a very good week and he very well could be eliminated. Even if he's not eliminated, I don't really want him to go on the road, presumably against the 49ers next week. Don't really want that. So that's where I'm at with Jared Goff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Baby Bowl, and I'm currently in 5th place in that. There's a lot of
Ooh,
people in that. I've won the regular season one before, but a lot of my players advanced. I did use Stafford and Puka Nacua, which is nice, right? Get big money
yeah.
from them. Smell you later. Sorry on a coop. But I did use up like Travis Kelsey and Mike Evans, which it kind of hurts a little bit because they didn't have good games and they won. So we'll have to see on that. For me, for running back, I'm looking around here, and my first advice for people out there in one and dones: if you have not used one of the Lions running backs, now's the time, right? So I personally already used David Montgomery. So I have a decision to make on whether, and he got a rushing touchdown, which is nice. But I have a decision to make on whether I want to use Gibbs now. If I use Gibbs and the Lions win again, now I'm in trouble. And the problem with one and dones is if you get to the Super Bowl and you don't have both running backs left, if you don't have either quarterback or either tight end left, you're kind of smoked. Wide receiver, you can figure it out. So I always start wide receiver at the flex, but now I got to decide. Folks out there, if you saved both Lions running backs, definitely use one this week. What I am doing is I'm using that same philosophy, and I'm starting one of the Ravens running backs. I'm going to start Gus Edwards because I think it's a great matchup against the Texans. Texans allowing a lot of fantasy points per game to the running back. Brett, I believe you have the teams already on which teams are allowing the most fantasy points to running backs that are
Hmm.
left. Who we got?
Yep. So it is the Packers, the Bills, and the Texans.
Bingo.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm gonna use Gus there and hope that in a double, a game where they're 9.5 point favorites, he gets a rushing touchdown. And then I'll still have Justice Hill in my back pocket for later. And I'm also going to use Rashad White just because I think that the Buccaneers lose. And we saw how many passes he caught. Even in a tough matchup, he's going to catch balls. So I'm just going to use Rashad White here and hope that he can score a touchdown in a losing effort, which is the best possible thing for one and dones. So, Brett, who are your two running backs?
Yeah, with Rashad White, I think that that one catch last night was just an anomaly because they were blowing them out of the water. I
Right.
don't think they're going to have that same luxury. So don't worry about Rashad White's stats. I was actually looking at him and Jameer Gibbs actually early on, but I pivoted to Isaiah Pacheco and James Cook because I do think that this game may be another cold weather game. The Bills you can pretty much run on. You definitely can run against the Chiefs in that cold weather situation. We don't know if the Bills are going to have Gabe Davis back. So in case he's out again, I think that they stick with the run quite a bit. L'Jarius Sneed's going to be all over Stephon Diggs. And then outside of that, they've got, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. So not a great situation for the passing game. So I really like Cook here. With Pacheco, it's a gut feeling for me. One of these two teams are going to be eliminated. So I need to use one. And I'm not quite sold on which team that's going to be. So I would rather use both of these running backs and just get them out of the way and pivot next week when I have a little bit better idea.
Yeah.
So
Now,
that's just
the interesting thing about
me.
that move for you is that if let's say the Ravens, Lions, 49ers, Bills, let's say all the favorites win, you'll have already used James Cook, but next week you can use one of the Ravens and one of the Lions, knowing that you'll have those guys left. And then you just
Mhm.
got to root against the Bills. Right.
Yep.
But that's kind of the thought process that you want to root for the players you have and against their team. Right. We're both saving Christian McCaffrey, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I think we got to
No.
save him in case they make the Super Bowl.
I think, yeah, that's about where I'm at right now. I know that it's chalky. I know that doesn't really differentiate that much, but there is a thing as good chalk. Doesn't happen often, but I think McCaffrey is an exception
Yeah.
with good chalk. So moving on to wide receivers, we have one of the same guys. So why don't you jump in on yours for who you're looking at wide receiver?
Yeah, so I already used Mike Evans, as I said. So I'm going with Chris Godwin. I think the matchup's good for him. I think that they lose. So I'm trying to go in there and load up on Buccaneers in a game where I think could be high scoring, right? 48.5 point over under, but they're also not huge dogs the way some of the other teams are. It's only, 6 points. So the implied point total is not going to be bad for this team. I think that they can fight back. Hopefully White and Godwin do well. And then the other player that I'm using is who did I say? Jaden Reed, because I look around at the Packers, and if they win, I have no problem starting any of the wide receivers. Like that's the thing about wide receiver and cobbling it together is that I look at it and say, okay, you know what? If any of these teams get the Super Bowl, I'm not going to be the only one starting Josh Reynolds or Dontavian Wicks or Christian Watson or Romeo Dubs or anybody. So might as well use up the Packers now, like a few of them, whoever you want to use. And if I think they're going to lose this week, I'm going to use the best one. So I'm going to go with Jaden Reed. If I already had used Jaden Reed, let's say you already used Jaden Reed, Britt. Who would you use? Who do you think is the best bet besides Reed to put up numbers for the Packers?
I did use Jaden Reed, and he put up a big fat 0 because he was a decoy, and it made
Wow.
0 sense and infuriated me. But that's neither here nor there. I think I'm actually going to look at Romeo Dubs. The way that he looked against Dallas last week, getting away, creating that separation, that speed, those couple touchdowns. Christian Watson was out there pretty much as a decoy as well. So it was a little bit interesting to see these two guys who have been so good when they've been on the field to just not have any part in that offense. So I think Dubs for me. Wicks, I do like, but it seemed kind of fluky, like he was going in and out. So I would rather have the guy who plays a lot more snaps than just kind of a touchdown dependent guy like Wicks.
Yeah, and I just got to warn people in Dynasty Land about these Packers because everybody is so excited. Everyone's so excited about all of them, right? People are still holdover excited about Christian Watson. He's not going anywhere, right? Unless they trade him, he's a first round pick or second round pick. Like he's not going anywhere. So you have to prepare for the fact that he's there, right? And Romeo Dubs quietly had like 8 touchdowns this year. So there are people out there that are like, oh yeah, Dontavian Wicks is better than Romeo Dubs. He's going to just overtake him, and then I don't know, Jaden Reed will stay in the slot, and Christian Watson will do whatever. And they have Tucker Kraft and they have Luke Musgrave. All these players are under contract through at least 2025. So
Mhm.
there's a real possibility where what you saw yesterday, and Jerry saying, I use Jaden Reed, you use Jaden Reed, that's just the reality for this team. That they have no reason to trade these guys. They have no reason to pay them now. They're just going to rotate everybody. And when you have Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, those two tight end sets mean two wide receiver sets. So, and they got Bo Melton, they got all these guys, man. So, it is in Dynasty down the road, you want to have as many talented guys as possible. But we could run into a logjam the way we've done in the past with teams like the Steelers, where the Steelers went to the Super Bowl and Antonio Brown had one catch in the Super Bowl because they had Emmanuel Sanders and the leading receiver on the team was Mike Wallace and the second receiver was Hines Ward. And, they had Antoine Randall L. So, happens all the time, man. Jordy Nelson had to wait his turn too. So just be very careful thinking that these guys next year are just going to be locked in, rock solid. Some of them might, but it's very crowded over there. And those guys aren't going anywhere.
Yep, 100%. And they're all good. So it's like,
Right.
it's not just like, well, this guy is better than this guy. So obviously we can see that chain of command. They're all equally good. So
Right.
trying to
Two,
parse and figure that out is just way too
two,
difficult.
2019 Ravens, the leading wide receiver in terms of snaps played 62% of the snaps. It was Willie Snead. There are times where teams just rotate everybody. So you just got to be very careful with that.
Yep, 100%. For mine, I am going to go with Chris Godwin for all the reasons that you said. I did go Mike Evans last week as well. I thought that he was going to do much better against the Eagles. Unfortunately, he didn't. But my second guy, I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was a little bit nervous about starting him this week, so I put him in my back pocket for this matchup against the Buccaneers. And it just so happens that the teams that allow the most fantasy points to wide receivers that are remaining are the Lions and the Buccaneers. So I think if you get kind of that mixture with St. Brown, I know that he didn't get a touchdown, that it was Sam Laporta who just showed up and snagged it in his limited, snaps. But I think that St. Brown has a much better game this week against the Bucks.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that the one and dones, man, and that's why part of me wants to come out and use guys that had down weeks last week and try and pull the rug on people. Like I already used Mike Evans. If you come out and use Mike Evans, he did not have a good game. Had a bad drop, should have been a touchdown, but he ended up having a bad game. If you come out this week and use Mike Evans, he gets eliminated. That gives you so much leverage over the people like me that used Mike Evans last week because we both used the same player at some point, but you just got more out of him. So
Mm-hmm.
it is definitely a strategy point to go ahead and do that.
100%. I'm just bad at strategy, unfortunately, and he
You're
used them
fine.
against the Eagles. So moving on to our final spot, and this is, of course, your wheelhouse with the tight end spot. So who is your favorite tight end to use in these one and dones this week?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is the tight end position is absolutely loaded, right? So I look around and I use a bit of a game theory here and say to myself, okay, I want to make sure I have at least one tight end in the final game, right? Most of these teams have very viable tight ends. The worst ones are probably Kate Otten or playing the guessing game of Luke Musgrave or Tucker Kraft. I only need three more tight ends, right? So I'm not going to, unless I put one in the flex, I'm not going to be able to use Dalton Schultz and George Kittle and Travis Kelsey and Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid and Isaiah Likely. So I look at it and say, okay, last week I used Travis Kelsey, didn't work out that well, like I said. There's four AFC tight ends: Isaiah Likely, Travis Kelsey, who I already used, Dalton Kincaid, and Dalton Schultz. I don't mind any of them. So I'm actually probably just going to roll out Isaiah Likely in a good matchup against the Texans, knowing that, if they go all the way. And next week, what I'll do is I'll use another Lufa's on board with Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
Next week, I'll use another AFC tight end, knowing that I'll still have George Kittle or Sam Laporta or Kate Otten. The thing about having Kate, if the Buccaneers go to the Super Bowl, which they probably won't, if they do, I'm not going to be only one starting Kate Otten. So you can get away with that, right? Same with the Packers. I'm not going to be only one picking between Musgrave and Kraft. So I'm all right with it.
Yep. I'm 100% on board with that. And man, as much as Kate Otten has gone on a milk carton this year, what he did last night, I'm really tempted to use him against the Lions, but I may look at Laporta. It's either going to be St. Brown or Laporta. against here. I need to wait and see the injury status and if he's going to be a decoy again, pretty much. But going up against the Bucks, I really, really like Laporta this week too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the Lions is that they went out in the offseason and got a guy to deal with tight end, right? They went out and got CJ Gardner-Johnson, and he got hurt almost immediately.
Mhm.
So it's been a weak spot for them, just like it's been a weak spot for the Eagles. So I could see Odd come out and have another good game.
Yep, 100%. But that we are, tick-tock, close on time. The time flies when we're having fun, right? Coming up next, I do too, and so does Lufa. Lufa is like
Yeah,
vibing here.
I think the septic guys might be here, Britt.
Yeah, I think so too. So coming up next, make sure to stay tuned here, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern for the Better Sports Betting Show. And then from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern, the NBA DFS live stream with James Grande and John Mpemba. I know that football is almost over, but baseball is right around the corner. So head on over to fantasyalarm.com, sign up for that all pro package, and get started there with everything that we've got on the site. Tune in for Coops Fiasco at 1 p.m. on Friday. And I don't know, am I forgetting anything, Coop?
I mean, that's all I got going on right now. We're moving over to baseball, betting, the whole thing as a squad, but we're going to keep it going. Cookouts is going to be a dynasty show on Wednesdays, and then Coops Fiasco on Friday's going to stay football, and you're going to stay football on Mondays, right, Brett?
Yep, sure enough, when I
Yeah.
have power and don't
That's
have
right.
power go
Yeah.
out. But it is supposed to warm up, so we're going to hopefully this is the last technical issue that we have going on around here. But that's it for me. If Coop doesn't have anything else, we will see you guys the rest of the week, and I'll see you on Monday. Take care.
Adios, turd nuggets.